Welcome to the Generation Elevation podcast, a conscious, connected platform for those who are ready to manifest their dream life. I'm your host, Elise Riley, a former PT, now motivational speaker, igniting empowerment and transformation all across the globe. Here at Generation Elevation, we are committed to bringing you the most inspiring guests who will share their stories, wisdom, and advice to help you progress closer to living a life of your own terms. What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Generation Elevation. Today's guest is the proud owner of High Vibe Water. Alongside her husband, Elliot, they provide safe drinking water infused with a high vibrational frequency. And this woman, she's super special. And I say this about all my guests. However, I mean this in such a magical way, because when I first met her, I saw her at an event and she looked familiar, and I just was questioning myself, where do I know this lady from? Where do I know her from? And I had a toilet break, so we went to the toilet and then we bumped into each other at the toilet and she's like, where do I know you from? And I literally just laughed because I said the exact same thing. And turns out we didn't. And I said, well, maybe it's a past life thing. So with that said, I'd love to introduce to you my guest for today, Cece.
Hello, how are you today?
I am so good. How are you, Cece?
I'm good, thank you. That was very funny when we met each other. I just kept looking at you. I'm like, where is that from?
Literally. It was so bizarre when you said the same thing, where you were like, oh, I feel like I know you from somewhere. And I said the same. It was just like, we don't actually know each other.
Not at all.
So
and then,
funny.
yeah, you really inspired me that day too, because I think prior to you starting all of this with the podcast, which is amazing, congratulations,
Thank you.
you were just sharing with me all of your journey and like in terms of what you've been practicing and implementing and the courses you want to take. And it was very, very inspiring to listen to someone tapping into their power and stepping into that space more and more. And then to see you here, and this is the way that we get to reconnect again. It's really incredible.
Oh, thank you so much. That honestly means the world to me. And yeah, like this platform is my baby. Like I'm so proud of myself, and I just know that it's going to continually grow and attract all the right kinds of people. And that's why I'm really grateful to have you on today.
Absolutely.
So for those that are listening, they're probably, who is this CC chick? Like, what is High Vibe Water? So I guess I'd love to ask a couple of questions just to quick fire at you. So CC, where are you from originally?
I'm from the Bronx, New York, originally, America.
Amazing. And you are living in Australia at the moment?
Yes.
Yes. And how old are you?
I'm 28.
28. And so you said so High Vibe Water is, yes, safe drinking water infused with a high vibrational frequency. In a short definition, what does a high vibrational frequency mean for those that are listening?
So what we normally do is play solfeggio frequencies. So they are certain hertz. 528 hertz is the standard, I feel, for us, because it is the frequency of love. So love and gratitude radiate at the highest frequencies. So that's what we try to infuse into the water the most.
I love that so much. We will definitely dive into that a little bit deeper. And I'm sure everyone's listening is now like, oh, that sounds super interesting. And I'm curious, what is something that you are grateful for this week?
I'm going to be starting a breathwork facilitation. So I'm really, 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 really excited about that. Lots of things. I've received really beautiful messages. I'm grateful for this life that I have.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so tell me, Cece,
Mm.
How did you go from being in New York to now being in Australia and working with High Vibe?
How?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's all right, I'll try to make that really short, but it's a bit. Well, I decided while I was in New York, I had gone to uni, I got a corporate job, had an apartment, I was sitting one day and I was like, all right, is this it? Am I supposed to like meet someone and get married and have kids now? It didn't feel quite right. So me and my friend had an opportunity to move to Mexico. We took it. Prior to that, I had a trip planned, booked here, flew here. My Uber got lost. I ended up someplace I wasn't trying to be because of that. And that's how I met my husband, Elliot. I still went to Mexico. He went to Mexico, brought me back. And then we started my life here. And then July 1st of last year, we acquired High Vibe Water after we had the honor of being guests for 18 months. So it was really nice to be able to move into something that was very aligned for both of us.
Wow, I love that. And I really resonate with you on, getting to a point in your life where you're like, oh, well, is this it? And I am pretty sure in my first episode, I spoke about how sometimes we can feel really guilty because we've got all these really great things. We've got the job, we've got the apartment, we've got maybe the partner at the time, and everything seems to be really good on the outside. And like you said, it didn't feel right. And I really resonate that with my journey. I didn't feel right either. And then it led me to being now on the Gold Coast and completely online with my business. So I guess I'd love to elaborate on that time for you and I guess trusting that inner feeling, because I'm sure people that are listening may potentially be in the same situation and are a little bit afraid of just stepping into the unknown like you have.
Okay. I decided to follow a number, and that number was 23. It kept showing up in my life. I worked at building 555 before leaving New York. And it might sound weird, or it might sound kind of like, oh, you followed a number. But I basically just looked at the world and I'm like, okay, I can continue to look at it with this very cynical view, or I can believe everything's magic and it's trying to talk to me and it's trying to guide me on the right path. So I'm just going to follow this. And so before going to Mexico, me and my friend Christy were sitting in the parking lot in a supermarket in Mexico. There were these Mayan guys, they were selling honey and they were wearing jerseys. They turned around at the exact same time. One was wearing 23, the other was wearing 16, which was her number. And we just lost it, which is why we moved to Mexico. When I first met Elliot, right behind him, 23. There was a day we were walking in the parking lot and he was still a skeptic. And he's like, all right, well, show me 3 23s in a row. And as we walked, I said, 1, 2, 3. Wow. When we got married, the photo was taken at 2:23 when we sealed the deal with a kiss. When High Vibe was presented, 23 was all over like that business sheet. It's just, and even before a very big journey for me on the retreat, it was 2 hours and 30 minutes from the house. And I pulled a tarot card that was 23.
Wow.
So it's just a thing I follow, and it's guided me to the most beautiful space.
I love that you mentioned that you can either look at the world from a negative point of view and how everything happens to you and everything's against you, or actually how everything's happening for you, and that to trust the process, maybe it's going to lead you somewhere that is better than what you initially expected. That's really beautiful. And so you met Elliot on the Gold Coast?
Yes, at Justin Lane.
Justin's Lane. Oh my gosh.
Yay!
I remember when I first come up to Burleigh, I went there, and honestly, it's such a vibe. I love that place.
I'm also glad that you said when you first came to Burleigh, because when I first came to Burleigh, it was the same deal.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was because of the music. I was like, oh, they have good music. I'll go in.
Yeah. It's a cool little upstairs pizzeria sort of place for everyone that has not been. And so tell me, you were involved with High Vibe before you actually became owners of the company. Tell me like how you come across such an industry, because I know for a lot of people listening, they would be curious on how you go from in a corporate building 555, going to living life, to now owning a company that is involved with high frequency water. Tell me about that.
Well, I will say, like during my time in Mexico, I did spend about a month and a half in meditation, close to 12 hours of silence. So I've really been drawn to understanding myself on a deeper level and allowing whatever's false to fall away. So that's been a big part of my life and my journey. Coming to here and how that happened, we had a housemate at the time. His name was Johnny, and he brought it home. And so basically when they told him that they play music and they play frequencies to the water, he thought of me and he was like, Cece would love this. So he brought it home and he showed us, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then from there, we just didn't drink anything else. And if we ran out of water, we were like, what do we do? We can't drink tap water.
Wow. So for those that are listening, what would be like the main key differences between like high vibe water or like a more of like a safer drinking water than versus tap water, for example?
So tap water, historically, the governments have issued and put fluoride in the water. Fluoride is known to calcify a part of the brain called the pineal gland. And that pineal gland is connected to the thalamus and the hypothalamus, right? So those three talk to each other. If you impact one part of the brain, you're impacting all parts of the brain. Thalamus and hypothalamus help our perception of reality and like how we take in spatial awareness. And the pineal gland in meditation is what actually connects us to the quantum theory. So it flips what Newton's theory is. So Newton's theory, the way that it is described in the world is space and time. And then whereas this is time and space. So time is the continuum, space is just what we happen to move through. The chlorine in the water is the next thing they do to, I guess, eliminate the bacteria, or they try to like nullify it. However, chlorine bombs were used in World War II. Chlorine is not good for ingestion. It's not good for our skin. It causes irritation, acne, and when you inhale it in the shower in particular, your respiratory system doesn't have a detoxification system for that. So it impacts us to a very great extent. Then we've even found arsenic in the water, and it's just no good. It doesn't taste good. I wouldn't even call it water, to be honest. I think it's just a liquid with chemicals in it. Whereas with High Vibe, we strip everything back to neutral. So we do that with a process called reverse osmosis. And with that, with our alkaline, we reinfuse it with minerals. So we raise the pH level about to 9.5. And then with our pure, we don't reinfuse any minerals back into it. So people who usually get our pure are people who enjoy baking or making coffee, or we have a man who makes kimchi with our water. But it's all based on personal preference at that point.
Yeah, amazing. And so you mentioned like reverse osmosis, and I wanted to just elaborate on that process just for the listeners as well. What does that mean?
So water normally flows in one way. You're basically stripping it. So you're reversing the way that it flows, and you're stripping it of all its memory of what it used to hold, and you strip everything out of it. Then it goes through all the filtration. When it goes into the alkaline, it gets reinfused. And before it comes out of the tank, it goes back through a toroidal vortex, comes out into the bottle. So it mimics how it flows in nature to reinstill. And during that process is when the frequencies are also infused into it. So it's taking on a new molecular structure.
Wow. And so what are some of the benefits of changing your like water intake from tap to a source like High Vibe?
First benefit I feel you'll notice is in your hair, skin, and nails. Those will become, your skin will become clearer, your hair is softer, brighter. The health benefits from ingesting chemicals to not ingesting chemicals is massive. So your body doesn't have to work as hard to pull apart what it actually needs from those molecules that you're consuming. So the H2O is just H2O, and your cells can absorb it right away, which means you're hydrated. Whereas with tap water, you're drinking it, but your body has to work so hard to pull everything apart that you're not really hydrating.
Oh, I love that so much. And it was really interesting how you mentioned like the pineal gland, and for everyone that's listening, that's very much associated with your third eye chakra, yeah?
Mm.
And a lot of Joe Dispenza's work talks about the pineal gland and how in meditation, it's like that's kind of the experience through that. And I found when I started switching my like tap water, because back in Melbourne, I was drinking tap water like no tomorrow, especially with my competing history. I was having like 5 liters a day, and it just didn't feel like it was touching the sides really. I just kept drinking all this water. I was so thirsty all the time. And then I moved to the Gold Coast and got around this high vibe, and I got around like water that was filtered, and found that my meditative experiences like changed so much. I wasn't just sitting and focusing on my breath so much anymore and wondering what's the point of this. I was actually getting more visions, and was able to tap into more of like my psychic abilities. And that's when everything kind of skyrocketed in that department for me. So it's definitely, I can see where the correlation is between that as well.
Well, when you think about it, when people look at planets and they look for signs of life, they look for water. It's the first thing that they try to find. So water we're 70% water. It's everything that we are as a being. And it's something that should be honored. We honor a lot of things, but we don't honor the things I think that matter most.
And what just popped into my head then, when I first met you at Elliot, Cece, you both mentioned water intentions. I'd love to talk about that as well, that topic.
So the way that we set intentions at High Vibe before every shift is you come into the water room. It is a sanctuary. It's the sanctuary, sacred space. You say good morning. You acknowledge the water, and you say thank you. From there, you sage the space, clear any of the old energy out. You put the music on, and then from there, we fill the bottles. So each bottle and each tank has an affirmation on it. So it's a positive intention set. This is based on Masaru Emoto's research. So he's the one who found every time he changed a frequency or he wrote a different word in combination, when you freeze water underneath a microscope, it creates a water crystal. So love and gratitude, what I was saying before, which is why we normally play that one, creates the most intricate water crystals. So it doesn't matter like what words associated with it, still can create the most intricate water crystals. It's I lost my train of thought there, but
wow, I'm just like blown away with, so you play love and gratitude, and that makes the most intricate water crystals. What other frequencies do you play, or do you mainly play that one?
We also play 989, which is more about abundance, or 888. So we'll try to do the angel numbers as well. Sometimes we'll play like a really nice lo-fi beat mix, or we'll do like a bit of tribal music to like really spice things up. It depends. So at the warehouse right now, the big 3 intentions and affirmations that we have is courage is the first tank, love is the second, abundance is the third. So for me, I think that with the space and how the world is flowing at the moment, we need a lot of courage to be able to step into our power, rise up against a lot of things that are trying to drag us down, which will then lead us to a space of love. And love creates abundance.
And you mentioned stepping into your power, and I love that, because that is really what my podcast is all about, where listeners can come and witness my amazing guests that I have on, and also myself, whereby we are all stepping into our power and becoming the best versions of ourselves. And you also spoke about you spent a lot of time getting to know yourself on a deeper level. So what would be your advice, especially to someone that's listening to this right now, in regards to starting that journey of self-awareness and stepping into your power?
I would say start with questioning everything you think, whether that's true or not. And I know that might seem weird because you just assume that everything you're thinking is true. But you start to look at the world a bit differently when you allow yourself to have a bit more perspective and just play. And I also feel be very, very forgiving, that during that process, you'll like backtrack, you'll go forward, you'll backtrack, you'll go forward, but it's all part of your journey, and just accept that you are where you are and it's perfect. But yeah, question your thoughts for sure.
And so, like, what would be an example of you questioning your thoughts? Because I love this as something I really teach with my clients. So I'd love to hear an example from your personal experience.
Okay. So let's say Elliot and me are doing a delivery, and he says something in a way where I feel like, I think like, oh, that was really rude. He's, and it starts to go. Then it becomes a wait. What's the situation? What's the moment? Why did he say that? Did he say something already and did I miss it? Did we miss a turn? Was Google Maps that, like, there's so many other alternatives to, he's not just generally being rude to me. Maybe there's a outside factor in that situation, in that scenario, where I can come with kindness and be like, what do you need? How can I serve you in this moment? Maybe not use those exact words, but that's the space that I would come from then, to be able to navigate that smoother so that we can come back to a more symbiotic existence.
I love that so much. And so I'm assuming to have that the ability to question your thoughts, you would need to have some sort of presence or practice cultivating presence.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you did talk about how you went on like was it 12 hours of silence?
For the majority of the days, yes.
Yeah.
I like that was, it's interesting because that also created one of the lowest points of my life, because everything I thought I was just fell away.
Yeah.
And everything that motivated me previously was also gone. So I just felt felt very lost, and I felt very without direction. But obviously everything happens for a reason, because now I had no direction, everything's dark. It's like, cool, I can create anything and I can do. And it took a bit and it took time and it took work, but I also feel I've always had really beautiful people around to support and guide me through and help me get to the next place, as well as myself. But that's a testament to the energy. 12 hours is intense. You really get grounded in your now. Like, what a blade of grass looks like.
I could imagine. Yeah. Wow. I can't say personally that I have done that, and not looking to do something like that, but however, never say never. And when you were speaking just then, I really resonated. I was talking to a client the other day about how sometimes when we're in the eye of the storm, all we can see is the storm. However, when we look back in hindsight, we can see how the storm clears away all the old to like embrace that new. And potentially that's just was that time period for you to close those old doors so you could step into that version of yourself which you are today.
Exactly.
Really beautiful. And so, like, for the listeners, I'm sure they're going to find you on social media. We'll do all that at the end. However, like, I've been looking at your socials and I'm like, damn, like, you are so confident and just amazing with the message that you're like posting on your Instagram, on your social media. So I would love to talk to you about that, especially like being a female in like the business space. And I know a lot of listeners will be curious on like body positivity and confidence. And I'd love to just elaborate on your journey with that as well today.
Okay. It's been a really long journey with food and fitness and health and understanding all of that. So like growing up, my family did not understand anything to do with nutrition. I basically ate rice, beans, and chicken all the time. I didn't see a vegetable until I met like a neighbor and they're like, if you want dessert, you need to eat this. I was like, fine. I've had like a weird relationship with the gym where I've started and then I've stopped and I've started and I've stopped. But like when I said that thing about forgiving before, I got to a space where I got very forgiving with myself on that journey. And I remember in New York, prior to leaving there, I started doing yoga every day. So I did 20 minutes before work and 20 minutes when I got home from work. And I would do it in front of the mirror. And my focus was to really stare at myself and just love it. I hated it at the beginning, and then eventually I got over it. And now, like, I'll dance in the mirror naked just because it's really nice to see myself. In terms of my content, I have a lot of sexual energy, so I really like to express that. I think prior to the retreat, there was still a lot of shame and guilt surrounding it, and I understand why. The society is not very kind to women and our expression of our sexuality. So I feel when it comes to that space and my Instagram, that's really where I want to play. Tantra is something that's entered my life recently, and I really want to channel that into my art and create beautiful photographs that just exemplify what it means to be a woman in any way, shape, or form that you come in. We are so divinely gifted and beautiful, and I just want every woman to feel that.
Yeah, I love that so much. Wow, my heart is literally singing hearing you. So I'm curious, what would then be like your maybe 3 tips for those who may feel a little bit of shame or a little bit shy expressing that side of them, that playful, sexual energy, that confident version of themselves, embracing their body and who they are? Like, what would be your like tips for pushing through that and really just jumping into their true self?
Tip number 1, I would say sit in the mirror. And if you can do it naked, do it naked. And just stare and like let that be a practice and time with yourself. 2, I would say, if this interests you in any way, oh my God, I think everyone should do this. I think you should photograph yourself and photograph your journey, because I started modeling when I came here, and the girl that I saw in those images to the girl that's here today, so worlds apart. And the fact that I have a visual of that, it's such a beautiful testament. And humans, we're visual, we like to see things, so it's just proof of the journey. And 3, nourish yourself. So that doesn't necessarily just mean food or water. That means starting to spend some time alone with you in your energy, without anyone else's comparison or thought or opinion, before you run to someone and ask, what do you think about the way I look, or anything like that. It's just, well, what do you think? What do I think about the way that I look? And sit in that space with yourself.
Wow. Just going to let that land for the listeners. That is so powerful. I love it because it really resonates with the practices that I do with my coaching, especially with the women that I coach. And to hear you say that, I'm like, oh, so good. Amazing. And so where can people find you? Like, if they want to know more about High Vibe Water and what it is that you and Elliot are cultivating in the space, where can they find you?
Well, we have a shop in Burleigh. I don't know if many people know where Koala Park is, but so when you're driving from Burleigh towards Palmy, we're right before the bridge. And then you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. High Vibe's Instagram is hi, like hi, .vibe.water. Me, I'm Cece, so just at Cece Chenery. So CECECHENERY. And we aren't inviting people to the warehouse officially yet, but stay tuned, because I think we're going to do a little soft launch party.
Oh, amazing. Well, I'll make sure I put all the links and all the details in the show notes, and you'll see it on my socials as well. So we'll make sure everyone knows about that.
Thank you.
And I always finish off my podcasts with one question.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
If you could give the listeners one piece of advice, and it doesn't have to be relevant to today's show, it could be just anything that you really truly believe they need to hear right now. It could be channeled, it could just be the first thing that comes to your mind. what would that one piece of advice be?
I would say don't be afraid to speak your truth, whether that is a perceived rude comment or anything. If you don't want to talk to somebody, don't talk to them. If you don't want to hang out with somebody, don't hang out with them. Like, just be so honest with yourself, and anything that you want will start to manifest once you start being truthful to you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Cece, for joining today. I'm sure the listeners got so much value from that. I know I definitely did. It's been an honor to have you on.
Thank you for having me. It's beautiful to spend this time together. You are amazing. Amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of the Generation Elevation community. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to leave a 5-star rating, written review, share, and tag me on Instagram at elise.riley. Until next time, keep loving, keep learning, and keep rising.